And yet, the way you think about who you really are affects almost every decision you will ever make.
Welcome to Returned to Honor, guiding members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to declare with confidence, I have recovered and returned to honor through faith, repentance, and a confident testimony in the atonement of Jesus Christ. The power of personal identification and how we address ourselves, how we view ourselves, and the way that we talk about our behavior in terms of our identity is such an important piece that it's something that we can't overlook and make any kind of light of. This is an important piece that I have really come to understand as a vital component of any kind of transformation, any kind of personal change, or anything that we are wanting to overcome or be different. Over the years, working with individuals who are wanting to change a behavior, specifically any kind of addictive behavior, one of the things that I've experienced is that the way that they talk about themselves, the identity that they carry about their own self, is one of the most important things that they can have, and one of the biggest determinants of how their behavior is going to change. Now, I've gotten in a lot of trouble over the years, and I'm fine with it. For those of you who are new to the channel, I come here, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have worked years in the area of change, and especially with individuals who are with addiction, whether that's a chemical addiction or is just an addiction that we would normally think of as a behavior. But a lot of my work has been focused with members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and those who are struggling to meet and level to the expectation of being able to go to the temple and feel worthy. And so Returned to Honor is all about how can we get to a place where we feel that we have the ability to say, I am worthy of these blessings, to be able to go to get a recommend. And my whole objective and mission is to help bring people out of the bondage of addiction, out of the bondage of these behaviors, as Nephi put, that do so easily beset us, so that we can be in full activity and be able to enjoy the privilege of the temple and be ready when the second coming of Jesus Christ happens. And that's what we're all about. So one of the core principles and one of the main things within I Have Recovered and Returns to Honor is this idea of identity. President Nelson made it clear in that opening statement that I started this with, and I want to echo that. Whatever language you use to identify yourself is going to then dictate the behavior that follows. We cannot get past the way that the brain interacts with the words that we use. Earl Nightingale said it, we move towards and become like that which we think about most. Proverbs says, as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Both of those are saying the same thing, that whatever we have locked onto, whatever belief we carry, is going to then dictate the behavior that follows. Belief, meeting a need, leads to behavior that comes back and validates the belief. If the need is met, it is anchored in and strengthened. Whatever it is that I have written on my heart, whatever it is that I believe intellectually and emotionally, I'm going to act on. And so one of the things that I have seen repeatedly over the years, and like I said a minute ago, I've gotten in a lot of trouble and a lot of grief for this because what I am teaching in this and echoing what President Nelson is teaching is that we cannot label ourselves and identify ourselves as our behavior. And what do I mean in this? The most common version of this is this: I am an addict. And I will adamantly and have adamantly pushed against and preached against and tried to get people to drop that language. And those who do, and almost immediately when they do, begin to see an instant change in the way that their behavior follows. Because when I identify as my behavior, when I am telling myself that I am my behavior, and I am presented with a temptation, when I'm presented with an opportunity, when I have an internal craving come up, well, if I've already identified myself as my behavior, if I've let go of my true divine identity, then what happens is something that I've had happen so many times over the years that I cannot even tell you how many. And I can't tell you how repeated this was, to the point that I could almost put a pin in a calendar. Some of you may have heard me talk about this, but it got to a point that those individuals who were coming into my office, who had totally embraced this language as if it was somehow going to change them, within 2 to 3 months, were using it as the justification. They would start spouting the mantra: I'm an addict. I got to work on it. I got to change. And there are other mantras that go along with that. I'm not going to go into that right now. But when they would relapse, when they would fall back, they would almost immediately say, well, what did you expect? I'm an addict. What do addicts do? What was I supposed to do? I am an addict. When we have self-identified and put that label on ourself, then almost immediately the brain begins to move towards and act like, become like, receive the thing that we think about most. So when I get up in the mirror and I recite some kind of mantra that is supposed to move me in a direction, but it is rooted in the identification of my behavior, the past behavior that I'm trying to get away from, then a part of me is still rooted in that past, and I am thwarted, I'm stopped, I'm damned from being able to move forward. And that is why this is such an important concept. It's so important. And so what I want to do is play just a little bit, and we're going to talk about this some more. But this is President Nelson, 2022, May 15, 2022, so we're just a little over 3 years ago, in a worldwide devotional for young adults where he and Sister Nelson both talked. But he addressed heavily this idea of identity and knowing exactly who we are. Let me jump over. I just want to play this for a moment. And when I do, we're going to come back and talk about it, about why it is so important and what you can do in your own life to change behavior based on the words that you use to talk to yourself.
First, know the truth about who you are. I believe that if the Lord were speaking to you directly tonight, the first thing he would make sure you understand is your true identity. My dear friends, you are literally spirit children of God. You have sung this truth since you learned the words to I am a child of God. But is that eternal truth imprinted on your heart? Has this truth rescued you when confronted with temptation? I fear that you may have heard this truth so often that it sounds more like a slogan than divine truth. And yet, the way you think about who you really are affects almost every decision you will ever make.
Let me pause right there and just, because that really sums up what we want to talk about. The way we think about ourselves leads to and predicts how we're going to act in every decision we make. If I believe that I am my behavior, if I believe and I carry any kind of notion of shame, that I am inherently flawed, that I am unworthy, that the bar is set so high that I will never achieve it because I'm down here, instead of looking at what are the minimal expectations of worthiness to where I can get onto the path to then start moving up the path. The way that we talk about ourselves, our inner self-talk, that little voice that is constantly chattering away, that is so incredibly important. That is so vital in the process of change and what it is that we are trying to achieve and do in our life. And if we are telling ourselves that we are unworthy, that we are broken, that we are the very nature of our behavior, the addiction, if I am an addict, not one who has an addiction, and I'm not trying to minimize in any way or sidestep reality and honesty. No, we need to be very honest about our behavior, but we also need to be very honest about what that it means for us. Okay? I can change behavior, but it's very difficult for me to change my identity. One of the ways that I was talking about this one time was the fact that I am naturally right-handed. It is very difficult for me. I don't even attempt to draw or write left-handed. I can use utensil left-handed, but I am naturally right-handed. In order for me, because I am right-handed, to change and be left-handed, I have got to change something so innately personal and unique about myself that I would practically have to lose my right arm in order to force the brain to begin working the left. If we have so rooted our identity into a behavior to the point that we are saying, I am that thing, it becomes very difficult to change because of the nature of words in the inner mind and the way that it then leads to behavior. Now, an incredible example of this, and I've gone to it many times, but it is so powerful. Let me jump over here. 2 Nephi 4. We all know this, Nephi's psalm. Nevertheless, notwithstanding the great goodness of the Lord in showing me his great and marvelous works. And so, regardless of how many incredible things I've experienced, how many things I've been shown, everything that's been laid out in front of me, my heart exclaimeth, O wretched man that I am. Now notice, it doesn't say, I am a wretched man. O wretched man that I am. Minimizes it a little bit. And some could say we're splitting hairs, we're playing with words. But I think it's important. My heart sorroweth because of my flesh. My soul grieveth because of mine iniquities. I am encompassed about because of the temptations and the sins which do so easily beset me. If he had accepted that I am such a weak individual, I am such a sinful person, the attitude and the emotion and the energy would have changed. He would not have felt so wretched and had so much sorrow and would not have grieved because, well, that's just who I am. Of course, that's what I would do. But when we separate ourselves away from the behavior, then we can feel wretched. We can have that humiliation because of the sins and temptations. We can have sorrow because of the sins and temptations, and we can grieve. Now that is so powerful and different than, well, that's who I am. And when I desire to rejoice, my heart groaneth because of my sins. And here's the powerful piece. Nevertheless, I know in whom I have trusted. My God hath been my support. He hath led me through mine afflictions in the wilderness, and he hath preserved me upon the waters of the great deep. He hath filled me with his love, even unto the consuming of my flesh. He hath confounded my enemies, and hath heard my cry by day, and given me knowledge by visions in the nighttime. In this passage, Nephi is showing us how even in the midst of all of his temptations and what he considered his sins, he never lost sight of where his faith was and his trust was and the blessings that came because of that. That becomes incredibly powerful. If I have adopted and accepted that I am nothing more than an addict, I am nothing more than my behavior, I'm nothing more than the sins and temptations, I'm going to lose all that motivation. I'm going to forget my faith. I'm going to forget that the atonement is there for me, and I'm going to not see everything that God's given me. And so this is why it is so important that we never forget our true identity. As President Nelson was admonishing in that worldwide address to the young adults, it's not just a slogan, I am a child of God. It truly is, it's a statement of truth. And when we embrace that, and we recognize our weaknesses, we recognize our faults, we recognize our frailties and our humanness, we can then turn and lean into the atonement of Jesus Christ. We can ask God to be with us, because I've no longer found myself trapped in an identification that keeps me bound to the behavior. And so it isn't just a really neat slogan. It is a true statement of fact. I am a child of God. I know in whom I'm trusting. I recognize and I'm acknowledging that I have weaknesses. But in spite of those weaknesses, I know where I can go for strength. I know where I can go for power. Now, let me jump over here one more time, because in verse 27 it says, and why should I yield to sin because of my flesh? Yea, why should I give way to temptation that the evil one has placed in my heart to destroy my peace and afflict my soul? Why am I angry because of mine enemy? He's questioning, he's challenging, he's looking at the temptations, and he's pushing back. Now, because he knows that he is a child of God, and because he recognizes that that is the source of his strength, he's able to lean into it. And then, with this powerful, awake my soul, no longer droop in sin, rejoice, O my heart, and give place no more for the enemy of my soul. Do not anger again because of mine enemies. Do not slacken my strength because of mine afflictions. Rejoice, O my heart, and cry unto the Lord, and say, O Lord, I will praise thee forever. Yea, my soul will rejoice in thee, my God, and my rock, and my salvation. When we truly remember that we are children of God, that we are not our weaknesses, and we are not our behaviors, and we do not identify as them, then we can do and follow this incredible example that Nephi has given us. And that is one of the core principles of I have recovered and returned to honor. That's what I do when I work with my clients, is we come to this place where we're able to separate my identity from my behavior. I can be angry at my behavior. I can have all kinds of contempt at my behavior and never lose my love for myself or my true identity as a child of God. That is why we need to separate these things. And when we do, that's what happens and why it becomes so powerful. So these are the things that I'm teaching over at WHOP.com, WHOP.com, Returned to Honor, for those who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We talk about these principles. We bring in the doctrine of the gospel and the teachings from the general authorities and conference, and we layer in all of these principles so that you can overcome the sins that do so easily beset you, so that you can become ready and able to stand at the second coming of Jesus Christ, as President Nelson is calling us to do, and so that you can also have those rights and privileges of having that temple recommend, so that you can go to the temple where, again, President Nelson has called us to be as often as our circumstances allow. That is the whole mission of Returned to Honor. I'm trying to help as many individuals as I can to be able to step into that power, into that space, to be able to recover from whatever it is that they are dealing with, and have that power that comes through identifying first as a child of God and one who is powerful because of that relationship. I want everyone who can possibly understand and grasp this to be able to come into that place. I do this out of love because I truly want to see as many people as I can overcome the temptations of this world, overcome the sins that do so easily beset all of us in one way or another, so that we can all join together in that great and glorious day, and that we can be ready as one of the 5 virgins with enough oil in their lamp to go into and with the bridegroom. I appreciate everyone who is here, and I appreciate everyone who reaches out, who messages. Please subscribe. Please share this with people that you think might be able to appreciate and glean from the message that I'm trying to bring out. And if you're ready to join the community, I am really excited to be there. The live groups that we're doing in there, and all of the information that I've put into that program, so that you can really change and become who it is that you want to be. Until we come again and I bring more information to you, I hope that you will apply this concept. Begin to stand and recite, I am a child of God. And as you do that, you're going to be able to say, I have recovered and returned to honor. And in that, I promise you, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.